Well, let me ask you, is there any city in the world that you have visited that has got urban planning down right and that you think would be a good model? And I know it's very, a dreamy question and that sort of thing. And I think too, we forget that, it takes hundreds and thousands of years to plan and build these cities. And so when you're working retroactively, it's not necessarily as easy said as done. But just for funsies, where is a place that you've been that got it right?
That's a great question, just because, I love how former Mayor Steve Adler used to say this, so if there was a solution out there, if someone had figured it out, guess what we'd do? We'd steal it and we would be unapologetic about it. Oh, wow, you got it right. We are 100% all over this. Yeah. So all the changes one of the arguments we hear down at City Hall is, that's not going to make it affordable for everyone. So therefore you shouldn't pass that. If that was the case, then that's like, you going in to see the doctor being like, I can't get you to 100%, so why don't you just get out of here, right? And it's not about 100%. It's about, let's make it better. Let's survive. Let's add hope to the equation. So,
or let's stop doing nothing that's not working.
Stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding. You just said we can't ruin cities in hundreds of years, but zoning's done a good job of making things pretty bad pretty quick. So, these incremental changes, every time we look at a policy, if it just makes it easier to build 2% more, 5% more, 10% more, like those are all good incremental changes. But you look at cities like Auckland, you look at cities like
Auckland, New Zealand.
Right. Just legalizing different forms of housing. You look at Bentonville, of all places, legal. Like there's just all types of housing that are allowed to be built right next to each other. It doesn't ruin the world. It actually makes it a pretty interesting place to go walk around.
Bentonville, Northwest Arkansas.
Yes.
Yeah. Home of Walmart.
Right.
Yeah. Did Walmart have any input into the urban planning and the different types of housing?
And there's just all these places that are just legalizing housing. So go up near the University of Arkansas. Okay. And then Minnesota, cities up there, the Twin Cities. St. Paul, a little bit less so, but, just legalizing housing types. So they just went ahead and said, like Minneapolis said, we're going to legalize fourplexes. And so do one of these things just suddenly make it affordable for everybody? Like, no, like all these things take a little bit of time. Had we passed our new land development code in March of 2020, like there were so many thousands of housing units about to go because there were architects and builders and developers, and there were all these underutilized sites, and they were just like ready to go with plans in hand, with tons of density bonus, income restricted, affordable housing units that weren't going to be subsidized by taxpayers. So when we passed Prop A in 2018, we passed Prop A in 2022. Austin voted unanimously, overwhelmingly to pass those items. But we also heard from folks who's like, what are other mechanisms to help pay for these income restricted units? And the strategic housing blueprint is very clear. The subsidized units paid for by city bond dollars is a piece of the pie that make all these housing units possible. Density bonus units are a big part of that. And that's what we were going to do in a comprehensive land development code rewrite. They're going to legalize a ton of housing in exchange for all these other community benefits paid for by the developer. So, us just trying to say, well, developers are bad and we have to keep them out of Austin. They can't build here. We want them all in Kyle building forever far away. That's just so bad for us. And we've got to get through that. But yeah, it's tough. Like other cities are facing this faster and faster and more. Yeah. It's really cool to see governors. Go look at Montana of all places. And there's just states that are looking at the housing crisis and they're like, wait a minute, at the state level, we're going to say this isn't cool. Like we have to pass better housing legislation. California is doing the same as well. Yeah. In Texas, SB 1412 had one of the 70 no votes voted yes. That was going to go 69-69. The speaker was in favor. The governor was in favor. And we were going to make accessory dwelling units, or those backyard granny flats, easy to build statewide. We were one vote away. Our local delegation was split 4-4.
I was about to say, wasn't there some local Austin representatives that voted against it?
There were, yeah. So you had Cheryl Cole, Busey, Tallarico, and Troxclair voted yes. And then, unfortunately, Howard, Flores, Hinojosa, and Goodman voted no.
And what was the reasoning behind the no vote?
It was just the quick reactionary local control, period.
Yeah.
And, sure, local control is important in a lot of aspects, but if you're just making it easier for someone to build a home in their backyard, is that actually ever going to be a bad thing in a state that is more and more facing affordability issues across across the spectrum, metro, rural, you name it. We don't do ribbon cuttings. We do board cuttings.
Okay.
And we were doing a board cutting in San Marcos, oh gosh, a while ago. And the mayor was just like, would you guys please fix your housing situation? I'm just like, excuse me, what's going on?
And he's just like,
here
fixing your housing situation.
Right. No, well, he was very clear about it. He's like, when Austin has displacement, you're pricing out folks, they come down here.
Yeah.
And a lot of them earn a lot more than our folks.
Right.
So they're displacing our folks. And so when we're downwind of Austin's bad housing policies, we are all feeling that. And so, yeah, we're growing like crazy as a metro. Second fastest growing now. We were the first. Before that, we were the second to Vegas back in the day. And so, when you're growing like that, like if you don't allow folks to live here, push them out there, we're making everybody face these issues, and it could be a lot better.
Yeah, snowball effect. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned like state level too. And I think I've noticed more and more housing being mentioned at the federal level, right? So even from like presidential candidates and stuff like that, I think it's being brought into the conversation of some of like one of the biggest challenges that we face today as a country, honestly, like, and how it goes hand in hand with all the rest of it, with income inequality and just general poverty and things like that. So
there's something called the Obama White House Housing Toolkit. So President Obama, a few presidents ago, came up with a pretty impressive toolkit of just like, look, you guys have to figure this out at the local level, and you have to do these things. Like, there's a lot of really strong suggestions on there. And it was interesting because his successor, President Trump, took over and cleared that website out, kind of top to bottom, changed a lot of things, left that toolkit on there for a long time.
Oh, interesting.
It just kept sitting on there for a little while. I was just like, whoo, we're all like, wow, okay. It eventually, I think, did go. But yeah, every presidential candidate in the 2022 cycle reached out to International Habitat. And that was, I think, our first time that we had ever seen that happen, where they were all like, let's talk housing.
Yeah.
So yeah, even at the federal level, it's happening. And it's just, and then, so we were already in this hole of 3 to 4 million units nationwide. Like since the great financial downturn of 07 to 10, we've just been in this real collective hole of housing units. And now you throw on to that, this spike in interest rates, like things are just really getting bad. They were already bad. They're getting worse. They're getting faster. And so, yeah, the tailwinds on getting things done is only growing.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, when you're in this big of a hole, that it takes federal resources to a degree to help chip away at this, right? Like people like you and others here on the ground in Austin are obviously doing your fair share, but the federal resources just have such deeper pockets, and to be able to combat this. And so
they can do things through, carrots and sticks. So yeah, all municipalities and cities and states, we all want, counties, they're just trying to do certain things. And the monies that come from the federal government are used in a lot of different ways to help our cities function. And yeah, there might be something one day that just says, look, you have to have a modern land development code that allows for different types of housing, or you don't get access to these dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cities are going to be like, oh, wait, but we need that. So
yeah.
We'll see what happens.